Hello and welcome back to Wisdom Talks. We're here today joined by Heidi Barrett, who is I'll read your title out, Specialist Support Manager. And we're here to talk about pregnancy, maternity, because you're due a baby.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to ask you, first of all, when's your baby due?
13th of May. So not long to go.
Yeah.
Now. Very exciting. Terrifying.
Yeah, you should be. No, Jake. I'm only kidding. But what I was going to say is I don't acknowledge anymore that somebody's pregnant. Completely, because I've been, maybe said somebody might be pregnant and they're not. And it's left me thinking, never again am I ever going to say to somebody. And it's like this awkward question now, isn't it? People are scared and treading on eggshells. But I'm happy to say you told me you're pregnant.
Yeah.
And I'm acknowledging that. So May baby, do you know what I haven't?
No, we don't. So we decided that we were going to have a surprise because I feel like we're in a day and age now where we have Amazon Prime, like everything has to be like next day. We binge watch TV series. Like we have to have everything now, me and my partner. So we were like, do you know what? Let's just leave this as a nice little surprise.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Not that you can compare it to Amazon Prime, but you know what I mean.
Depends what you're ordering.
Yeah. But no, 13th of May. So time's just going so fast. I can't believe it. It's crazy.
So we're talking about how people and employers can support an employee within the workplace. And obviously, how have you felt like about this pregnancy? Tell me a little bit about, the build up. Tell me about, what you feel and how it's affected you really.
Yeah, 100%. So I think it's been quite a hard journey for me and my partner. So we've always kind of known that we wanted to have children. And then we kind of made a decision about 2 years ago that it's something that we wanted because we're both getting older. He's 37, I'm 34. So we'd been trying for about a year and a half. And that in itself was quite a very stressful period of time. You see everyone else around you kind of getting pregnant and it's like, why is it not happening for me? But I think we put too much pressure on ourselves. And then when we kind of stopped putting the pressure on, it happened. And obviously that doesn't happen for everybody, but luckily it did for us. So I've been very, very lucky sort of in sense of work, to be honest. Obviously I work for a wellbeing company, which is helpful. And my manager has been absolutely incredible. They always tell you that you're not supposed to really tell anybody because it's bad luck or whatever, but I felt comfortable enough to tell her quite early on. And at the start, I was really quite poorly, really sick. I've never felt tiredness like that in my entire life.
It's a different tiredness, isn't it?
It just sucks everything out of you, doesn't it? And I felt comfortable enough to have that conversation with her. She has been absolutely incredible. And I think that's
nice
really
to hear.
It's a lot of people don't get that. So I think it's super, super important to have someone that, like, my manager's never had kids. I don't think she wants kids. But she took the time to understand how it would affect me. And I think when it's your first child, this is my first baby, you don't actually expect what it's going to be like, and you don't expect how bad that sickness is going to be. You don't expect how tired you're going to be. So to have someone that I felt open enough to talk to about it was really, really nice.
And I just want to also say to the people listening here, if you are an employer or you're an employee, you spoke about, not telling your employer about that you're pregnant. You want to keep it secret. It's bad luck. But there's another side to that, which is, as an employer, there's different types of jobs that people do, there could be a risk to an unborn child. So we've got to remember that there's confidentiality here. So if you work for me, I would encourage you so much to tell me you're pregnant at an early stage, and actually go so far as to put something in the handbook to say, when a person becomes pregnant, they let us know written at the earliest stage, so we can implement our health and safety standards and risk assessments. Because by law, I'm sure we'll have many people listening today, but by law, an employee, should put it in writing, and then the employer by law has to do that risk assessment. And so many employers don't. And you've just explained the first trimester, which is the like somebody's gone like that with your energy, like a pregnancy vampire's come along and sucked out your life and gone, you'll just drop to sleep whenever you want, you'll be sick and everything. And there's all these, and we're talking about a normal pregnancy here. There's people out there that have complicated pregnancies, need extra support. So it's so important to know as soon as possible as an employer, isn't it?
And I think that's so important that as an employer, you have that relationship with the people in your organization, because like I say, I felt comfortable enough that I wasn't going to be treated differently because I was pregnant or anything like that. I knew that I could tell the company early on because I knew that nothing would change, and I knew that it was going to be supported regardless. And again, I appreciate that some people maybe don't feel that way. But that's why it's so, in my opinion, so important to have that openness. So people do feel comfortable telling you early on, because like you say, you need to do, I had a risk assessment when I think I was about 8 weeks pregnant, because I'd already told my manager. So it's so important.
That's right. And so when you're saying you're 8 weeks, you see, so the biology side of it, actually, which we don't realise, and I think you don't realise till you've had a baby, or maybe somebody's really interested in it and they don't want children, but they're really interested in that side. But the baby depends on the hormones of the mother. I don't remember which till the placenta's built. And then it's like a parasite. So up until that point, it's the hormones and everything that keeps that baby alive. It's essential that we do a risk assessment as well, because I don't know if people know this, and I'm not sure if you know this, but when a person's pregnant, they shouldn't be lifting anything. So when I ask people what do you think lifting is for a pregnant person, and they say like 20 kilos, 5 kilos, but actually you have to do a risk assessment to find out the capability and also, what the pregnancy is progressing. So, there's all this to think about, isn't there, which you don't think about when you're having a baby, and in work. Not in work, giving birth in work. Hope not.
No.
You'd be calling the baby wisdom.
No, let's definitely hope it doesn't happen at work. But no, you're so right. And I think you don't think about it, and you think about the fact that you want to have a baby, and you have those conversations with each other. And again, that's if it's a planned pregnancy. Obviously, sometimes it's not. But it is a massive thing, and you spend so much time of your life at work, and you don't think about how it's maybe gonna impact that. And I didn't know that about the lifting. So
so if you don't know, I think there'll be a lot of employers out there that won't know. When we hear, I have to say, recently I've heard a quite dreadful pregnancy story excuse me, about a young woman that's been forced to leave a job, and they haven't done a risk assessment, and they've just said, look, your time's now, not paying maternity. And I would say to anybody out there that, seek help and support, go to your employer, find out your rights, speak about them. And on the advice line, we're talking about positive pregnancies here. We're talking about your journey and how you feel. But I know that on the advice line and specialist support, that you will get people that ring up that have been trying for a baby and haven't been successful, people that have had miscarriages, going through fertility, people that don't want a child and maybe feel pressured as well, and also obviously people that birth a child and then something happens. And I don't know about you, I'm glad to say there's lots of family-friendly rights that are coming in now to protect these things.
It's so... Again, I keep saying it's so important, but it really, really is. And I think the more, because when we were trying and we were kind of struggling, I think a lot of the conversation tends to be, especially in work or outside of work, people don't really tend to talk about the struggles that they've had. And yes, like I've been super, super lucky that the actual pregnancy itself has been positive, but getting to that point has it is tricky. And I think the more people, if they feel comfortable doing so and talking about it, it makes people like me who were struggling at the time understand that it's not, everyone's always like, oh, I'm pregnant. Like, we've been trying for 2 days and then it just happened. And it's like, but then when I told people that I was pregnant and had conversations with friends or family that we were struggling a little bit, then they started talking to me about the fact that they had.
Yeah.
And then that makes it more normal that people don't have easy journeys, and whatever path you have to take to get to becoming a parent, if that's what you want, it's not always easy and it's not always simple. No. So it's, again, making sure that you know what support you've got.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like me telling my manager fairly early on, she was literally like, right, this is the maternity policy. This is how much this is how much the pay is. This is this, and was literally giving me all this information that made me feel so much more relaxed about everything.
Yeah.
So it's having those policies in place and having conversations, because people are so scared to talk about things sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that, it was stigmatized years ago, like, I've employed you and now you're pregnant. And that's exactly, I've been around a long time, and that's exactly what some employers were like years ago. I know there's still some out there. And the journey's different now. I think that people are more, I'm so happy that you're so supported. But and I'm glad that it's changed so much and come on leaps and bounds. And I'm glad to see lots of family-friendly policies coming out for all the like neonatal leave, all of that coming in, because when you have a baby, let's be honest, you sit there, as soon as you're pregnant, you're sort of like, I know I did. I'm like, all right, okay, so I'm 40 weeks there. This is how much money I'm getting. This is what I've got coming in. And it's a real cut to your wages.
Yeah.
So things like neonatal leave and care, which is new, these types of things are really helpful. And there's lots of other leaves out there that people aren't aware of, like parental leave, unpaid leave. And also, I think that it is the time of your life, I know, where it really financially kills you a little bit. And then you got nursery fees if you go back to work. So I know. So do you get asked all those questions?
Yeah. And do you know what? I think the maternity policy, I think, is it's great that there are all these policies that are coming in, but I do think there is still quite a lot of work that can be done to help people feel a little bit more secure.
Yeah.
Because, like, if you think, for like statutory maternity, for example, I think it works out, if you work like a 37.5-hour week, for argument's sake, if you're on statutory maternity, it works out at like £4.90 an hour, when minimum wage is £12 something an hour. So like you were saying, it's such a financial
drops
burden. And again, I'm super lucky that my partner works. He will continue to work. He gets a really, really positive paternity leave, which I think is another thing as well that's nice to see
come in
changing.
Yeah, because you had to take it in a block. Yeah. And now you can separate that. So there's, and I think for anybody listening, an employer and employee, when you ring the advice line, or a lot of people now message in, and you want to know your rights, ask what they are. And employers ask as well, because there's loads of rights there that are really helpful to a business. So if, there's, I think, 10 weeks of the year that you've got to find childcare if they're in school. So 10 weeks is a long time when you have 4 weeks holiday. So things like parental leave and shared maternity leave, all those rights are brilliant. And they're there to help. There's a lot more to be done in maternity, I think. Well, let's save that conversation for another day, because honestly, I could go on about this all the time. But I want to go back to pregnancy itself. Yeah. And I want to go back to the employer, the employee ringing up. What do you find the most things when you take advice calls? What do you think the most common things are that people ask you about in a pregnancy?
It's anxiety.
Is it?
It is. I think, especially towards the earlier stages, if you have had a fairly difficult journey, it's that struggle at the start. because you go so long, you take a pregnancy test, then it's, right, now I have to wait at least 12 weeks for my first appointment, then it's your first scan. So it's such a long period of time where you go without really knowing what's actually happening.
And if it's viable. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think especially in the earlier stages, a lot of what we see is anxiety related. And again, as you go through it, it really changes. It depends on where someone's at. Anxiety early stages, towards sort of second, third trimesters, it's typically tends to be financial concerns, like you've mentioned. But then again, the anxiety that links in with that, relationship difficulties. Again, if you're in a relationship potentially where you're not harmonious, for example, and the thought of having the baby is again causing some difficulties within the relationship. It's people just looking for advice on how to navigate that, because again, not everybody is fortunate that either they have a partner, they have to do it on their own. Some people want to do it on their own, which again, who knows. And then sorry, my brain is literally jelly.
That's fine.
I totally lost my train of thought.
But it's fine. That's okay. And you know what? We're not going to cut that out because that's part of a pregnancy, I think. But I would say that when you get pregnant, I've had 11 pregnancies and I've given birth successfully 3 times. And my journey has been that rugged journey. And, from, Clomid tablets to pregnant injections to keep a child, to miscarriage, to ectopic pregnancy, to having a child, removed, if you like, and all that type of stuff. But I've had 3 really successful pregnancies that are brilliant. So I know that journey that people go on. And I think for the people listening, I don't know. I think when people get pregnant, that that they have this assumption that somebody's going to walk in front of them with a basket full of rose petals and wrap you in cotton wool, you're made to feel special. That doesn't happen. You work you're still being the same person, but you have this added bump now. And it's not as, like you say, the word harmonious, I think you said. I can't even pronounce it. But, it's not like that, I think, for a lot of people. That journey isn't like that. And, it's not a tick box. I mean, it's brilliant. It's sometimes for lots of people, it is that sort of like hard journey, I think.
And I think that's another thing to kind of maybe discuss is, I think, when you find out that you are pregnant, and especially like in my case, like I said, this is my first pregnancy. Again, I have been super, super lucky. And I keep having to remind myself that I don't need to say, I know I'm really, really lucky. Like I am. But it's still, I can still, if I am if I am really tired or if I am uncomfortable, like it's still valid for me to complain about that.
Of course it is.
But you do, like if because you know that some people can't have children that want children, and sometimes there's that guilt in the back of your mind, like, oh goodness, like I shouldn't be complaining. Or if you've had like a difficult journey, oh gosh, like I should be grateful that I'm in this situation. But it doesn't take away from the fact that like you can still have a whinge if you want to. If you're having a bad day, it's absolutely fine to do that.
And the other thing is, it's a good point there, because what you can get is, and I've had this actually when I've had been pregnant and it's not been a successful pregnancy, and then a close friend has become pregnant and then avoided me. Actually, it's not your baby I want, it's my baby. So I think that the good thing about the advice is that if you are pregnant, you want to know how to deal with a friend that's lost their baby, you can ring up. We give you advice for that. If you want to know the feelings I'm having, are they normal? Yes. When I lost my temper and is that normal? Yeah. Is it emotional? Are these the right things that I'm feeling? And having that support and knowing it's completely normal to feel like that, but having somebody back you up and say that is normal, that I think is very, very important.
And I think you can have the best support network in the world. You can, but having someone that's not part of your family or your relationship or your immediate kind of support network to that's completely unbiased. That's so important. Because again, like, if I'm worried, sometimes I don't want to tell Byron because I'm like, oh God, like I don't want him to worry. So the fact that you can have those conversations with someone completely outside of that and get that validation is great.
And it's better than Google.
So don't Google anything.
I know. So it's better than Google because you're speaking to somebody or you're messaging. A lot of people now choose to message like, is it normal to do this? Is it normal to feel like this? Is it a normal, should I be worried? And getting that advice, I think is brilliant. Yes. Gone are the day. I think with my first pregnancy, I think you had to look everything up in a book. Dr. Miriam Stoppard was the one. And that was it. That's all you had. Or your parents, whoever, to get you through it. And that was it. And now we've got so much resources on the internet. But I think the advice, the wisdom, the health assured, I think is the right way to go. Use it, utilize it, because there isn't anything you can't answer, is there?
No, that's the thing. And I think as well, like it's having the confidence that you're getting the right information and you're getting the right type of support. And it's and
so we've learned from this that every journey is different in pregnancy. And we have choices now. So for people that don't want children as well, and having to deal with people keep asking them if you're having a child, So that's another thing, isn't it? That people. So we've got the choices we have now. We've got the pregnancies, the different types of pregnancies, the journey to the pregnancy, knowing what your rights are, the risk assessments, and knowing that each trimester, it's like a game that trimester. Every single one of those is a different journey, isn't it?
Yeah. And you have completely, in my experience, you have completely different emotions and feelings at those times anyway. And again, I think that's where it's important to understand, one, like you say, what your rights are themselves. But two, that again, you have that, if you don't want to speak to someone in your immediate support network, if you don't have a support network, you have other options. And contact us, speak to someone, because you'll be able to get support and advice. And I think people don't, when you're pregnant, I think one of the biggest things is people think about their physical health and they're like, right, am I eating the right foods and things like that? But then you don't think about the fact that that's going to affect your sleep, which affects your mental health. You don't think about the impact necessarily that the worrying maybe is going to have, and it's just making sure that you can notice that within yourself as well.
I think that, and also we don't talk about things like heartburn as well. The killer heartburn. But I was going to say then, we need to get you back when you've had your baby. And the reason we need to get you back is because we need to speak about not necessarily the birth, but the journey after the birth, the support you get after that, and the things that you might experience as well, if you don't mind, that would be. And also the other thing that I wanted to mention was to everybody out there, one of the things that people find difficult when they've had a baby is you've got your family, if you've got family, and especially if you're doing this on your own, you've chosen to do this on your own, or suddenly you are on your own, it's knowing about those baby groups. They are so key. The antenatal groups, the baby groups, they are key. And I know friends of mine that have stayed friends for decades with the people that they met at those groups, and they are a brilliant support. And you on the advice line can tell them of local groups in their area, can't you?
100%. And that's one of the things that I've spent ages
is it
looking at. I'm like, right, okay, where can I go after? Because again, you have to have a network of people around you that are going through something similar, because you have to be able to talk about it. If at 3:00 in the morning your baby's crying and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, it's not here yet, but you need to have that network. And my mum, when she had me, I still stay in contact with the kids. Like we're all still part of a massive group, and I'm 34 years old, so it's lifelong relationships that you build those types of things.
That's it. Yeah, I think we need to bring you back on to cover that bit, to talk about those baby groups. And also, your mum can tell you, I know from my 6 grandchildren, I know when I say, oh, you do it this way, they don't listen. They want somebody else to tell them. You don't listen to your mum. You know, some people do, but and some tips they take on board. But things like my mum, you know, she goes, oh, you must breastfeed. And I found it really uncomfortable, you know, so I think we need to revisit this journey that we're having with you now.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
No,
we'll bring baby on as well to show the audience as well, say this is what you've had. And but I think I think so let's do a summary. And so risk assessments, get to know you've had a really good supportive manager. You felt confident from the very beginning. So what tips would you give to the people out there that are managers, that are people that are trying for a baby, pregnant at the minute? What would you say?
So I would say, especially for employers, it's just sometimes it's easier said than done, but have that open communication with the people that you work with.
Yeah.
You as a manager are everything to that person. So have those open kind of conversations.
Yeah.
Like it's so important. Again, my manager knew that we were struggling.
Yeah.
So it's creating that open culture, that open conversation.
Yeah.
For people that are trying, keep going.
Yeah.
It might not be easy. Keep going. If you're ever unsure, speak to someone. Like, get help. There's so much support out there.
Yeah.
Get help, get support. But yeah, just keep going. Keep going.
And get through it. And do this.
You will. You will. You're resilient. You can do it.
Yeah.
You've got it. You know what I mean? Look at what your body's doing.
Yeah.
If you've
knitting together a child, or maybe in some cases, twins or more.
Yeah. Like,
good luck, everybody. That happens to you. Yeah.
It's incredible.
It is, isn't it? And so it's to be celebrated, isn't it?
And treat yourself kindly.
Yeah.
Give yourself a bit of a break and look after yourself.
Yeah. So one last thing, we are going to bring you back.
Okay.
But one last thing is, everybody that comes on here passes on words of wisdom.
Okay.
Do you have any words of wisdom to give to the audience?
It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's my mantra, essentially. Especially, it's always been my mantra, but kind of especially now with the baby, like, I've got a birthing plan and I've been thinking about it, but ultimately, it is what it is.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah.
And you can't control everything.
No.
So give yourself a bit of a break.
Yeah. Thank you, Heidi. Good luck.
Thank you.
I might see you before you have the baby. We might have you back for the last trimester. And we, definitely when the baby's born anyway. So good luck. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.